Hello and welcome to the magic of fishing. Today you join me on the stunning Yateley East complex on the Surrey-Hampshire border. It's home to famous carp venues like the Match Lake and Cops Lake, but that's not why I'm here today. Instead, I've come round to the summer pit, which is really apt because it feels like summer today. It's red hot, it's supposed to hit 25 degrees today, even though it's May, mid-May. We've had a real heat wave the last week, and that should hopefully help with the fishing. I have been warned by the bailiff just now that it's been tough up until recently, but hopefully that warmth on the water, it's really clear here. It's an old gravel pit just like all the lakes on this complex, and hopefully that sun's been penetrating the depths and getting the fish in the feeding mood. It's my first time on the venue, which always makes for an exciting trip, and as always it's great to have you along for the ride. I've picked a corner peg which has all this open water in front of it. I'm hoping to fish feeder out there, but it also has this lovely looking bay on the right, overhanging trees, reeds, and the wind's just pushing into this corner, so I'm hoping to give flow to go down there as well. And it really is a beautiful venue. I could have picked any number of pegs that look really good for a fish or two, but that little breeze pushing down into this corner was as good a reason as any to pick this spot, and I do like the look of that bay down to the right. I've brought bait with me today, or rather a bait that has had some special ingredients added to it that really does give me confidence as well, especially when I'm fishing for tench or silvers. It's curried maggots, and I can smell it now as I'm sat next to my bait tray. I actually prepared them last night because you want to give them overnight in the powder if possible. It's as simple as getting your maggots fresh from the shop, adding a good heap or two of the yellow stuff, and giving it overnight in the fridge for the maggots really to take on that flavour of the spices. And I've found down the years that it really is a killer flavouring, a killer additive, especially for tench, but hopefully for anything that swims today. You know me, I'm not obsessed with one particular species. I just know this has a good stock of tench as well as a few carp and plenty of rudd, I believe. So yeah, I've got this bait with me that is filling the air with a spicy aroma, and I know it's going to do the same on the bed of the lake. I've also put some in my ground bait too, which is a dark fish meal and breadcrumb mix otherwise, but that curry powder really gives it that little extra kick. And if it has been fishing a little bit tricky over the last week or two, hopefully that'll give me the edge. So yeah, it may be spring, but feels like summer, and we're on summer pit. I've been feeding a few loose maggots and hemp down to the right in a little bay, and I've just put out 5 or 6 feederfuls of the spicy ground bait mix with a few maggots, bit of corn, and we'll give that a rest. We'll start on the float and see if there's anything, even just small silvers, in this little bay. We'll start with a couple of maggots, just see if there's any fish about. Always like to get a sense of whether there's small stuff as well as any bigger fish. Just a gentle flick out, a couple of rod lengths, and that's just past the little reed bed. The float's bobbing already on the drop. That tells me probably a small rudd or roach. But yeah, I was plumbing up earlier, got a good 5 foot where I'm fishing, but that's off a little shelf of only 3 or 4 feet, and that is where there's a bed of pondweed. So hopefully just fishing over the other side of that pondweed into the deeper water in this quieter bay should bring us a few bites on the flow, even if I'm largely looking to fish feeder today. Yeah, definitely plenty of bites on the drop, so might have to go on to corn here. We've got a tiddler, but it really is small fry, baby roach. So let's try a piece of corn. I was warned there were lots of very small roach and rudd in here. So I bought the corn, also got a few worms, could be good for tench or perch. Yeah, and that time the float settled without pulling under. May still get some small stuff on corn, and I'm happy with that. Can always go out on the feeder, but hopefully avoid the really small half-ounce fry-like fish. I must apologise up front, by the way. We are, for all its beauty and natural splendour, this lake is next to a quite busy main road, so there's sometimes a bit of background traffic noise when a lorry or a loud bike go past. And as always around Surrey, Hampshire, you've got the small planes taking off or landing quite regularly, so apologies for any background noise. Hopefully we'll catch enough fish to distract you. You do need to bring a towel or a rag with you when you're fishing curried maggots. Deadly on the day, they really can stain your fingers bright yellow. A bit like when I used to fish bronze maggots on the Trent by the bucket load and go home looking like a very heavy smoker. It really is going to be a scorcher, which of course I've been warned is not ideal for this lake in terms of the fishing, but it does feel like summer already, and I don't think it's going to last into next week, but to have your shorts on and flip-flops at this time of year, it's a real bonus. And here comes that gentle breeze again, just pushing into this little bay. So feeder will be the main attack, I think, but it does feel very fishy in this corner. It really is full of these small fish, which is really encouraging to see. Very healthy fishery, and they're ravenous. There's some tiny rudd, but more like piranhas. So I think feeder might be our best bet short term for a better fish while the sun's high. Any feed I'm putting in, even the hemp and the corn, is pulling in these shoals of small silvers. But we'll give it another 15 minutes. Bit of time for that feeder line to settle. It's making me think this place could throw up a really big perch. All these bait fish to feed on. Nice clear deep margins, and there are small perch in here, which means they're a big perch, so they might be a bit predisposed to feeding on live fish rather than the worms I've got with me, but we might give that a go later. See if there's any bigger, better fish attracted in by the feeding activity. But yeah, could sit here all day with a whip and catch thousands of fish. Give corn another go. Well, even with corn, the tiddlers keep coming. Not complaining. But another couple of casts and we'll go on the feeder. Miniature perfection. Yeah, it's definitely time to try feeder. Getting bitted out down the edge, but I've put plenty of hemp down in case any tenshore carp come looking. And now we'll give double corn a go on the feeder line, which is a good distance out. And it really does look good with that ripple on it. It really has made a good account of itself. even on this stepped up float gear. But a right scrap in this crystal clear water. It's lovely fishing, this. Oh, it's a carp. There's me saying 90% sure a tench. That was based on having seen it briefly under the water. It had a greenish hue, but I think that's the tinge in the water. I've actually got a carp. He's nearly ready for the net. Scaly mirror. We got him. And there we have a really chunky, plump and pristine mirror carp. Really good scrap on the float gear, even stepped up float gear. He's got a real belly on him. I'd say he's about 7 or 8 pound. But although it took a while, really worth waiting for. Let's get him back. So yeah, what a change in fortune. We had a really slow start, perhaps as expected. Trevor, the fisheries manager, was really clear with me that it does fish better on a dull day or in the evenings or very early mornings, and yeah, I got here middle of the day, so I had to expect a slow start apart from the option of tiddler bashing, but stuck it out. Nothing on the feeder yet, and we'll go back on that. Now we've put quite a few feederfuls out there, so the line should be primed for later if the fish switch on a bit more as the light fades later this afternoon, and we'll keep going on the float for now. Quite happy catching fish like that. Yeah, and there's a real greenish tinge to the water. It's probably the very first algae starting to appear after a warmer week, but it's really clear, the water. You can throw a few maggots in down the edge and watch them drift down for a good 3 or 4 foot. So it's not by any means murky water, but there's just that lovely little green tinge, and that's, I think, what made me think it was a nice tench to begin with. Saw the fish roll deep down in the water, and that white pale flank suddenly looked quite greenish. But very happy with the carp. Gone back out on the corner, we'll see what else there is. And all the while picking out those spicy curry maggots over the top. Any that do make it down past the voracious rod will no doubt be pulling in fish like that carp. It's now late afternoon, 5 or 6 o'clock, and you can see the seed heads are starting to form into fairly sizable clumps right down the lake. They also show the breeze is still pushing into this little bay, starting to drift this way, and although it might make fishing tricky on the float, the fish may follow the wind. Well, the intensity's starting to come out of the sun now. It's dipped lower in the sky, and I've just seen a tench roll in the middle of this little bay, so for the moment I'm sticking with the float, fishing a bunch of spicy maggots, and keep feeding the hemp over the top. Well, the sun's definitely a lot lower now, and we're into that evening light, so hopefully we might get one more fish yet, but it has been a difficult afternoon, as I was warned, with the bright hot conditions. Sometimes you can't win in fishing, can you? It's either too cold or too hot, but certainly this is a pit that doesn't fish well despite its name, the summer pit, in bright conditions. Either need to be early morning, late evening, or overcast and a bit of a wind on it. So got another hour yet, and I'm hoping that with that big bunch of maggots we'll get something. Just about got him under control now. Oh, proper bend even in this specialist float rod. Not seeing the fish yet. Just scrapping away in the margins. I think it'll be another carp. Judging by the way it went for the snags straight away. And the fact it's not got tired yet. Bit of weed on the line. My arm is starting to ache. Let's get the net ready. See if we can get him along with the weed. Yeah, carp. Brilliant, we've got him. On the spicy maggots. Let's have a look. Oh, it's another deep, chunky one. Oh, there we have it. A really feisty, again chunky, golden common. Really nice fight on the light gear, and took a liking for the curry flavoured maggots. Really satisfying after a slow afternoon, and yeah, Trevor was right. Wait for the light levels to get a bit lower and the fish will come. Well chuffed with that. Well, it's a real shame to lose one like that, but don't mind so much when I pull out. Obviously don't want to crack off and leave a hook in a good fish, so obviously just wasn't a great hook hold, but yeah, big bunches, 4 or 5 of the curried maggots. That's what I'm getting the late action on. Well, I do not like ending with a lost fish, and light levels are about perfect now as well, but I've got to get home. It's been a great, interesting and enjoyable session. Tricky through the afternoon, and this lake's really lived up to its billing, which was plenty of big fish, but the conditions have got to be right, and it was a bit too bright and still for much of the afternoon. As soon as the light levels have fallen, I've started getting plenty of bites, lost a couple and landed a couple of nice carp as well, so I'm pleased with that for a first exploratory visit to a new venue. Can't complain. And yeah, I'd like to get back when it's a bit more overcast and blustery, or stay later one evening over the summer, or get here if I ever get out of bed early at the crack of dawn. That's probably not going to happen, but you never know. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. If you're not already in the club, don't hang around. Subscribe button below for plenty more videos like this. And if you are already in the gang, thanks very much for your support as always. I'll see you again soon on the bank.